Hi, I'm Jay Porter from Radial Engineering here at the Radial Prime Acoustic and Ultimate Support booth in Anaheim, California. And we got a bunch of new stuff at the show, as always. The first thing is the presenter. The presenter is a basic podium or ideal a podium mixer, or for a DJ or any kind of setup where you need a single microphone as well as some audio from a computer or from a tablet or a phone. So you've got one microphone in, got stereo outputs, merged mono. Microphone has phantom power, and then it's bus powered via USB, either through a wall adapter or straight into a computer. Then on the other side here, we've got the mic input level, a basic EQ, and then volume control for your program material coming in USB or 3.5 mini jack on the front. Cool things about this box: plug in a tablet or a phone while you're connected to the computer. The audio will automatically revert to the phone. Unplug it, goes back to the USB connection, so really handy in that way. Also, the USB is bidirectional, so when you hook this up to a computer, fire up your digital workstation, and you can actually record the presentation into your computer for keeping it that way. Next, in the Tonebone line, we have the AC Driver. And the AC Driver is a basic preamp and direct box for acoustic guitar players that don't need a whole lot of EQ, but just having a nice notch filter as well as a low cut and a level control. You got a mute foot switch, a tuner output, and then a basic radial direct box XLR output. So a nice, good piece for the performing musician that needs a little bit more than a DI, but doesn't need a full-blown preamp for their acoustic guitar. Next, we're growing the Dante line of DI boxes and interfaces with Radial. We released our first Dante boxes last year, which was the Dan TX and the Dan RX. Well, this is the TX2 and the RX2, so a little bit larger boxes. The TX is going to be your transmit box, so this is a true 2-channel input with level controls for both. You can stereo link if you are actually using a stereo source. And then you've got your Ethercon input on the back, as well as your output, as well as your XLR combo jacks for connecting analog devices. Powered over PoE or an external power supply. And it's in our standard Radial standalone chassis, so it's have rack mount kits available for one in a single RU or two side by side. The RX2 is the opposite, so this is going to be your Dante input via Ethercon to analog XLR outputs at line level. You also have a headphone amplifier built in, and 1/4 inch and 3.5 mini jack on the front with a volume control. So also in the same standalone chassis and rack mountable with the TX2. The SAT2 and Mix 2-to-1, these guys just started shipping. We showed the first prototypes last year, but they've come a long way. SAT2 is a stereo attenuator, so line ins, line outs via XLR. Also have the 1/4 inch there for the inputs. And then you could use this as a basic monitor controller or anything you want to just turn down the volume on. You've got your mono sum and your mute and your dim, which makes it great for somebody just running single pair of monitors in their studio. But because of that nice functionality, being a completely passive device, can work a lot of live sound as well as install applications where you need to drop the level on things. The Mix 2-to-1 is a passive 2-channel summing mixer. So the 2 inputs with level controls. You can also defeat those level controls with the bypass switch if you don't want anyone messing with them. And then your 2 ins and your output via XLR. Also have 1/4 inch inputs. So anytime you need to combine and merge 2 line level signals down to a mono, save channels, or just combine things in the studio or in an installation, Mix 2-to-1 is a nice, simple little passive device to allow you to do that without noise, buzz, hum, that sort of thing. Next, we have our Catapult Minis. So last year we released some larger Catapult boxes, which is 4 channels of analog audio over Cat5. So the Catapult Minis have that same Ethercon connection for Cat5, but then just basic XLR tails, male or female, depending what you want. So you can run 4 channels of audio over a strand of single or shielded Cat5. So really nice way to lighten the load, have a smaller cable, reduce cost to carry analog audio over the shielded Cat5 cable rather than going with the traditional snake. Next we have the Backtrack which is a backing track switcher. So anybody running stereo tracks, we have our larger SW8, which switches 8 channels of audio for people running redundant playback systems. This is for the smaller band that's just running some stereo tracks off of a phone or a tablet or even laptops. You can have 2 devices hooked up via mini jacks or 1/4 inch on the back. You can queue up your second device to get things in sync by selecting that in the headphones only rather than the output. You can listen to either device, either channel that way. And then XLR out. So if you're using those stereo tracks in a live environment, you always want to have a backup. This is a nice, handy way to have backups into the same channel and just hit a button if something were to ever go wrong with your primary switcher. And finally, speaking of the SW8, so the SW8 is the 8-channel backing track switcher. This one's going to be coming later this year. This is the SW8 USB. So with these redundant playback rigs, typically people will be using Pro Tools or Logic or a similar digital workstation. They have their pre-recorded tracks on them, 2 completely separate dedicated computer systems, and audio interfaces. Well, with the SW8 USB, we eliminate the need for audio interfaces. You can have your 2 computers hooked up to this device. It becomes the sound card for both computers. If anything drops out on the first computer, it'll automatically switch over to the second computer. MIDI switching's included. You can use MIDI synchronization, so the first computer can start the playback and stop the playback on the second computer if you'd like. And then we've even included redundant power supplies. So you have 2 power supplies hooked up, plug into separate sources, just to maintain that true redundancy and make sure that you're not going to have any problems. So that's the SW8 USB and the whole group of new products from Radial Engineering here at NAMM Show 2018. Have any questions, you can contact the folks at Radial or at Long & McQuade.